Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place where we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian. Join me once again, my co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Adrian, what's Gucci, bro?
Hey, what's up, man? How's it going? Freaking Wednesday afternoon, hump day. Kind of excited for the weekend. But yeah, it's I'm happy that Monterrey just lost against Columbus, but it doesn't really mean anything. They still have the second leg
Right.
going
Where
on.
we
So
know it gets brutal for concacaf or MLS
yeah,
teams to play down there in Mexico.
yes.
But I mean, still, that's an interesting matchup. That tie there between the tie, not the tie empate, the tie battle between Monterrey and Columbus. That's an intriguing one for sure. But we're here to talk about México, man, la selección mexicana, eltri. Specifically, what can they do going into Copa América? What changes can they make? What YOLO plays can they make here to kind of either go all out? We were talking before recording this episode that Jaime Lozano is at risk regardless of what happens, right? I mean, if he doesn't do well, he's at risk of losing the job. There are rumors that they'll keep him until the World Cup, but if he does horrendous in the Copa America, I can't see that happening. And if you're gonna not, Mexico very unlikely is going to win the tournament, right? So I mean, a lot of people are saying just YOLO it and get all these new players in, and let's see what these youngsters have. As a reminder, real quick, before we kind of get into some possible changes, some possible maybe plays that he can make here, I want to kind of go over the lineup that Mexico started their most recent match against the United States in the CONCACAF Nations League. In goal, Guillermo Ochoa. In the defense, Jesus Gallardo, Johan Vázquez, Cesar Montes, and Jorge Sanchez. In the midfielder, Edson Alvarez, Eric Sanchez, Luis Chavez, and up front, Henry Martin, Jimmy Lozano, and Uriel Antuna. So those were the 11 players he started against the United States. And obviously, the big news there was Santiago Jimenez didn't start. Orbelin Pineda came on as a sub. Luis Romo came on as a sub. Gerardo Arteaga came on as a sub. And unused was really Julian Quiñones, Julian Araujo, Carlos Rodriguez, Roberto Alvarado, Jesus Orozco, Eric Aguirre, and Julio Jose Gonzalez. So those were the 23 players he took to the Nations League. Starting with goalkeepers, do you think Jaime Lozano should make any changes here, any risky moves?
Yeah, I mean, as you and I were saying, right, this is perhaps Jimmy Lozano's chance to just say, screw it. Whether his job is safe or he is pretty much out if he has a horrendous participation in Copa America, he needs to take risks, right? And one of the biggest areas where he can actually capitalize on taking a risk is at the goalkeeper area, which is, we all know, we all love Memo Ochoa, right? He's been great for Mexico. He's been, I would say, even arguably better for the national team than for any of his clubs. But it's also, not a lie that he's not getting better, that he's not getting enough play time, and he's getting up there in age. So why not allow someone else to take that spot and prep him for the World Cup? To me, the near-term solution, and we discussed this before, is Luis Angel Malagon, right? I think he's an easy option right now. He is in great form, playing for the biggest team in ligamx, very solid. Yes, America has a decent defense, right? But whenever he's been challenged, he's been able to, apply himself and make some huge saves. So having him as your goalkeeper just makes sense, because right now he's the best for that specific role. If El Jimmy Lozano wants to go crazy and make a statement, find someone who's younger. And we've discussed this also. We have someone in the name of Fernando Tapia. We all know that he has the most mainstream name that is possible, but Fernando Tapia is a very interesting talent in Liga MX, 23 years old, playing for Querétaro. I think he has less than 30 matches in Liga MX, which it's kind of tough for a 23-year-old player in any professional league. But he has shown to have some promise, to have some good talent. And this will be a great experience for him to get him just, the feeling and the taste of what it's like to compete against other very challenging, highly competitive opposition in Copa America.
Yeah, I mean, assuming he takes 3 porteros, I think no-brainer. I don't think he might drop Guillermo Ochoa from the starting lineup, but I doubt he'll drop him entirely from the 23 convocados. So I think, it's safe to say Malagon Guillermo Ochoa, and the third one will be interesting to see if he does take a youngster, Fernando Tapia, or someone else that made his debut in March for the Mexico U23 squad, Alex Padilla, the Spanish-born goalkeeper that plays there in
Yeah.
Bilbao. He accepted a call up
Hmm.
back in March, and he played in that 4-2 defeat to Argentina. But he's recently expressed interest, man, that he's full on ready to represent Mexico if needed. So that's another interesting option. Alex Padilla, who already has 25 appearances for Bilbao. He's even younger than Fernando Tapia. He's 20 years old, and that's another one for the future for Mexico. Playing
Hmm.
in Europe, there would be interesting to see him maybe as a third option there for Mexico. Um, Talking about defense, man, specifically right back. Obviously in the USA Mexico match, it was Jorge Sanchez that started. Who do you think should he make any surprises here? Should he stick with Jorge Sanchez, or there's plenty of options here?
There is some good options out there, right? It isn't like this is one of those positions where Mexico can say it isn't necessarily stacked, but it has some decent depth, right?
Right.
um, I personally think that Jorge Sanchez is isn't the best option out there, even though he's playing for Porto, and apparently Porto's going to make they're going to actually fire the buying clause and acquire him on a permanent basis, which seems to be like he's settling down in Porto, but
Yeah, what a
he
drastic
hasn't.
change.
Yeah, exactly.
A
Like,
couple
isn't that
months ago.
crazy? Like 6 months ago, he wasn't even wanted, and now he's gonna stay at Porto for some reason. So I guess he shows that he's improving out there. But to me, he has eltri has given him so many chances to prove that he's the one for that specific role, and every single time he has either disappointed or just not risen up to the challenge. I think it's time for someone else to take the spot, just like in the goalkeeping position. I think the easy one is Julian Araujo.
Mhm.
He's the one who's been, second option or behind Jorge Sanchez in pretty much the last 2 years, or since even before Jimmy took over. But unfortunately, Julian Araujo hasn't necessarily proven himself when given the chance. I'm not saying that he's not necessarily gonna get there as we, get closer to the World Cup. I seriously doubt his form and performance is going to change between now and summer. But there's someone in ligamx who has been outstanding for his club, and I think he deserves a chance. And he's Rodrigo Huescas from Cruzazul. He's also a very interesting talent in ligamx. Also being scouted by European teams. We really hope that he gets to make a move, a transfer to Europe. But that's also another option that if Jimmy really wants to commit to a change and take some risks, I would put Rodrigo Huescas ahead of Julian Araujo just to prove a point and be like, all right, this is your opportunity to take the job. Do you really want it? Show me that you want it.
Rodrigo Huescas, man, who he's only 20 years old and he already has 64 appearances in Mexico's top flight with Cruz Azul. That you don't see that a lot with young Mexican players, especially Liga MX, where they're oftentimes, we've discussed this in plenty of videos before, they're oftentimes relegated to the bench in lieu of extranjeros or older players. So to already have that many appearances for Cruz Azul, one of Mexico's top teams, right? Or was back in the day, still a grande, but I mean, 64 appearances says a lot. I mean, he's 20 years old. He's younger than Julian Araujo, who's 22. I mean, obviously, he's still very young himself. But Julian Araujo has had a good season with Las Palmas, 21 appearances with Las Palmas, and we'll be looking to make this summer count for him, to especially to show Xavi, who we was released today, that he's going to be continue on as Barcelona coach, that he's ready to make his debut for Barcelona next season. So it's going to be an interesting battle there for right back. I think one of the positions where Mexico does have, like we said, a lot, not a lot, but more depth than in other areas, and quality depth. I feel youngster depth as well, which is something that cannot be said, in other parts of Mexico's lineup here. What
Mm-hmm.
about center back? We saw him have Cesar Montes and Johan Vasquez, who have been pillars for not only Jaime Lozano, but previous coaches as well. Do you think he sticks with these two guys? I mean, obviously Johan Vasquez is a fanfare. Cesar Montes has been up and down recently. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I think he's going to stick with Johan Vasquez because Johan Vasquez, out of all of the center backs that are eligible, has shown to be the one with the most improvement over the last year and a half. Playing for Genoa, he's playing for Genoa, if I'm not mistaken. Um, he's proven to have excelled on his pretty much defensive duties. He's become a better defender, and he's been very consistent not only for his club but also for Mexico. So I think Johan Vasquez's spot is safe. I want to preface this saying that I don't have anything against Cesar Montes. I don't think Cesar Montes is a bad option. I think Cesar Montes is perhaps the second best center back as today. But we're making this video based on taking risks and making some changes, right? And so to me, someone who has earned the right to be called up and fight for a spot and perhaps be the go-to center back is our boy Antonio Portales, who plays for Dundee FC at the Scottish Premier League. I know that not all of us follow the Scottish Premier League. I'm not even like an expert on it, but from what I can read, from what I can see on the stats, he is a regular for Dundee FC. He's pretty much well valued in the Scottish Premier League. He's been doing nothing but good work out there. So if there's a time for Jimmy Lozano to, put his foot on the ground and make a statement, is call someone up who has been grinding day in and day out on a top 10 league in Europe to deserve a spot in the national team.
Yeah, I mean, Dundee, the Scottish Premier League is not the greatest. We know, I mean, the two big teams there are Celtic and Rangers. Then below that, it's probably Hearts and Dundee that are kind of the known clubs there. You've been talking and advocating for Antonio Portales since we started Puro Pinche Gol 2 years ago. Recently, the last video when we covered him, we got a lot of comments saying, he could be an option, but, PPG listeners weren't thrilled about having the Scottish Premier League player on that seleccion just because a lot of PPG listeners think that it's a league below even MLS, league below even ligamx, which debatable. I mean, there is definitely two good teams there, and then there's a drop off maybe, but it's still Europe. You're still playing against players from all over the world, players playing in European football and playing in that culture. That it's a different culture specifically from ligamx for sure. It's not the greatest league in the world, obviously, but I mean, like I said, some people weren't fans of this move, man. What do you say to those people that aren't fans of this pickup?
Listen, my biggest argument is that he's getting regular game time, dude. He's playing first team every single match. Cesar Montes is not. Cesar Montes is struggling to settle down in Almeria. He had a little trouble at Espanyol, right? They got relegated. He goes to Almeria, and he has been unsuccessful at settling down as the go-to, as the first team option for that center back. There's been instances there he has spells where he plays as a first choice, and there's other longer spells where he's not even considered. So he's been quite irregular, proven to be unable to adapt to European football. I wouldn't be surprised if he moves back to Mexico after this season. So that is my argument for them. Is like, listen, we're not here to make any favors, right? We're not here to exclude Cesar Montes, but we're here to bring in players who can actually have a positive impact, could be beneficial for the team. And Antonio Portales has that grit that Mexico lacks. That's my argument, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any flaws in it, man. Moving on to left back, we know Jimmy Lozano started Jesus Gallardo there in left back against the United States. But I think as we're seeing this Liga MX season develop, and it's kind of easy to see this because they play on the same team, Gerardo Arteaga has kind of taken that left back position from Jesus Gallardo at Monterrey. Gallardo has kind of been pushed to a left mid, left wing. And, especially, today is a perfect example against Columbus. The left back was Arteaga, and above him, in front of him was Gallardo. Do you think Arteaga has now not only earned that position as left back for Monterrey, but also for Mexico for this tournament?
I think that's a near-term solution for now. I mean, if we look at the roster of left backs available for Mexico, there aren't necessarily a lot of exciting talent or anyone who is slightly better than Arteaga. I think that the years have caught up to Jesus Gallardo, and he's a better offensive wing than what he's left back. So Arteaga could be the easiest solution for now. But here's a name that we mentioned on our previous episode that, I made a claim and saying like, yo, wait a second, USMNT, do Mexico a favor and do not call this guy up. And that's Yogo, right? Again, if Jimmy wants to make a statement, this is a chance for him to prove to those dual nationals that there's a path for them to be relevant and important for Mexico. This is a chance for Lilini and Jimmy Lozano to go call him up and be like, hey, we promise you first national team opportunities, not only for Copa América, but also for the World Cup, right? You have way more competition at the USMNT level. You have your entry point or your entry level in Mexico is significantly lower. Why not just offer him the spot, right? Because there's no one else more exciting on that position that is eligible for Mexico than Yogo.
Yeah, I mean, somebody that's, only 20 years old and already has, over 40 caps for Real Sociedad B and 27 caps for Mirandés there in Spain. Mexico historically hasn't been a team, obviously that likes extranjeros or supports extranjeros. And not saying that Jogo is necessarily an extranjero to the extent of Julian Quiñones or Funes Mori, somebody like that. He, Mexican heritage. He grew up in a Mexican household. But even that, Mexico has always historically struggled or not really pursued or seen the value of Mexican American players. We see it with Julian Araujo. He's probably the one that has had the most success in Mexico so far, and even
Yeah.
so, he hardly plays, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, for Jonathan Gomez, he can have an easier time getting into La Selección Mexicana, but maybe he'll be looking at, Julian Araujo hardly plays. If I look at over here for United States, Brandon Vasquez was like me, Mexican American. He plays for the USA. What's his name? Zendejas. There's historically more Mexican American players that played for the United States. Hercules
Kirk.
Gomez,
Yeah.
what's his name? Castillo, the guy that played for Tijuana.
Yeah. Tommy Castillo. Yeah.
Corona, all these Mexican American players that in the last decade or so have played for the United States, right? So it's a toss up, man. I mean, does he go for the United States where there is a lot of competition there at left back, or for Mexico where historically I'm sure his family has always supported Mexico, and it's probably he probably bleeds red, white, and green, but where he might not necessarily get the chances or get that acceptance as no, he's more gringo than Mexican, or or he won't get the that the chance necessarily, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one, but I think Mexico has a lot to lose and a lot to win with a gambit like this. So Doña Fede, don't even think about it. Just go ahead and commit the spot for this guy. Just do it.
Yeah, definitely an enticing option there for left back for Mexico. Moving on to midfield, man. Again, just a reminder: Luis Chavez, Edson Alvarez, and Eric Sanchez were the players to play against the United States in the Nations
Mhm.
League loss. I think three of these are locked down to go to Copa América. I feel, but who do you think can maybe sneak in there and be a possible option for Jimmy Lozano?
This was a tough one because the three that you just mentioned, I think, are right now the best midfielders that Mexico can have on the pitch. But as much as I like the three of them, there's one crucial aspect that none of them bring into the table, which is being the connection between the defensive, between the defense and the offense. There's no link in between them. There's always this approach to let's play vertical through long balls. Hope that Henry Martin can muscle his way in, even though Henry Martin is unable to do anything against opposition who are physically stronger than him. And there's always this approach of long balls, let's play vertical, counterattacks. And I think Mexico has to go back to the basics and find that link, that number 10 that is missing. Because if you look at the roster, there's no number 10 available for Mexico. If Jimmy wants to make a difference, wants to make a change, I strongly suggest bringing in someone like Jordan Carrillo. If you look at Jordan Carrillo, he is not necessarily a classic number 10, but a very contemporary number 10. And
Mhm.
he has the ability to carry the ball, be the connection between the defense and the offense, and be that link that will drive all the offensive strategy. Right? He will be the director of the offensive drive, carry the ball and distribute it, hold it when needed, find the those cheeky passes, and just become the go-to magician that Mexico is missing.
Mhm. Um, Quick question for you. I don't know this off the top of my head, but have Chino Huerta ever played that number 10 role?
I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, he was either a defensive wing, and then he moved up to be I think he's a right wing or left wing, anyways.
Yeah.
But I don't think he has played like the central attacking midfielder position.
That'd be an interesting. I don't know. I just thought that he'd be kind of cool there. But
Maybe.
yeah, no, Jordan Carrillo's yeah, definitely an option there. For a midfield that is probably the region of the field that Mexico's most stacked and gifted in, right? With those three players of Edson Alvarez, Luis Chavez, and Eric Sanchez. But yeah, I think Jordan Carrillo gives them something that they, like you said, they're lacking right now. That distribution, that number 10, real number 10, that Mexico has been missing for a while now. Moving on, man. I guess going to attackers here, who he started. Obviously, we had Henry Martin, Uriel Antuna, Irving Lozano. Lozano, who, as you know, you've always said, he's been living off of that 2018 performance
Yeah.
against Germany for so long now. Who do you think would be a surprise option here?
I think you and I have mentioned a couple of very interesting names on a previous episode, but there's one specific name that I think Mexico, just like I want Doña Fede to commit to Jogo, I think this is another option that they have to throw everything they have at it and just secure that cap. And this is the name of Luca Romero. Luca Romero is a Mexican-born player and has Argentinian parents. He is a player who has represented almost all of the under I guess child or kid national teams for Argentina,
The youth
and
squads. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And the he's been approached by Mexico a few times, and all of those times he has turned them down, saying that he's very grateful for the opportunity, but as long as he has a slight chance to be called up by Argentina, he wants to wait for that specific moment. The most recent news that came out were that Mascherano is not necessarily taking him in consideration for the Olympic Games squad. He didn't get called up for the last tour they did in Mexico. He's not going to get called up in the next round of roster call ups. So this is the chance. If there's a magical moment in time for Mexico, is now. This is the right time and place for Doña Fede, Lilini, and Jimmy. Go and sit down with Luca Romero in Spain and be like, hey man, we can guarantee you a spot for Copa America, and we can also guarantee you a spot for World Cup, which is going to be played at home, right? You're going to play a World Cup. We can guarantee you that, as long as you keep your performance and your fitness levels at a decent standard, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there are other players in ligamx that we can probably call up. There's some other interesting talents out there, but there isn't a player with the, I guess, upscale or the opportunity like Luca Romero has. Why not just convince him, dude? Why not just stop playing around with a Jimmy Lozano, stop playing around with El Antuna, and just bring in someone, give him the chance, try something new. And I think Luca Romero could be that outlet for something different at the forefront of Mexico.
Yeah, Luca Romero, who has played all his career there in Europe, right? I mean, somebody that was developed in Europe, has played for the Mallorca youth career or youth teams, Lazio in Italy, AC Milan, and now he's there at Almeria on loan right now. He's only 20 years old, I believe, was what I was reading. 19 years old, even younger, and yeah, I mean, like you said, now's a chance, right? I mean, if he's not getting called up here in the foreseeable future for Argentina, this might be a time where he's maybe considering his options. And what better way to sell it than we're playing Copa America, we're playing a World Cup in our home. Would you question if he accepts the call up and for this Copa America? Does he automatically get gainer that trust of Jimmy and maybe start alongside maybe a Santigimenez and I think it'd be really interesting young attacking trio of for Mexico up there.
I mean, I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt. I would definitely encourage Jimmy to put him and play, um, because what else do you have to lose? And Aurelio Antuna hasn't proven to be your solution. Jimmy Lozano is a selfish son of a gun. So why not just put someone who might surprise you, right? He's only 19. The most exposure he gets to these kind of challenges, these kind of matches, you only hope that he gets better at it, right? And gets in a role of getting better chemistry with Santigimenez and with whoever is on the midfield and or on his side of the pitch, right? Um, I don't think he automatically deserves a first spot, but he definitely deserves the opportunity to prove himself.
Yeah. Adrian, this has been an interesting video. As we wrap it up, are there any, maybe, we could be talking about players for a long time, but this would be a 5-hour video. Are there any quick shout outs you want to make to somebody we didn't specify, we didn't really talk to too much here that can maybe, be another YOLO player, another interesting move for Jimmy?
Yeah, there's one in Chicago Fire on the name of Brian Gutierrez. He's a very interesting prospect. I think his name is also Alex Montaño from Mazatlan. He is also very interesting, even though he plays for Mazatlan. He's a very interesting talent in Liga MX. Luca Dupuy, that we had mentioned in other episodes, he's doing something decent out down there in Argentina with Rosario Central. Another interesting option. Fidel Ambris from León is also a very interesting one. And you also have, the names of Santi Munoz, who was pretty much playing in Newcastle B. Now he's back with Santos, but he's a very young talent who has shown some promise. Those are a few names that come to my mind. Maybe Marcel Ruiz is also another interesting one.
Yeah.
All of the names that I've given you are dudes who are either 21 years old or below, or 22 years old and below, and have had a good amount of games under the belt, either at MLS or ligamx, or in Argentina, like Luca Dupuy.
Or yeah, or even like Santi Munoz, who went on loan out there and already has some of that experience out there.
Yeah,
So yeah, all youngsters that can, if Jimmy, like you said, we said at the beginning of the video, we said throughout, if he what was risk it all, right? What's there to lose? Mexican fans are dying to see a revitalization, a rejuvenation of the squad, and a lot of these young players have that heart, have that battle to try to go out there and prove themselves, right? Instead, a lot of the older players have probably already gotten just conformistas.
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely interesting prospects here, Adrian. As we wrap up, man, where can listeners find us, dude?
They can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Instagram. We post stuff every now and then.
Yes, be sure to follow us and let us know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on Adrian's picks here? Anybody else you think we could have included here on the list? Are you in favor of what we're kind of suggesting of Jimmy kind of just throwing away the old guard and kind of revitalizing the team with a lot of this new blood, new youngsters? Definitely interesting prospects and a lot of interesting talents that Mexico could look towards the future for. So let us know in the comments. We like interacting with you guys there. Adrian, another interesting episode. I'll see you next one, brother.
Always a pleasure, my guy. Take it easy.
Likewise, dude. See ya.
Deuce.